So Google sort of stuck in a tough spot right now. Samsung just hit a home run with the Fold 8, and you know Apple's gonna be coming in hot with their foldable. At this point, the Pixel 11 Pro Fold couldn't just be good, it almost had to blow us away. Hi everyone, Ta here. So the phone looks a lot like last year, but there are some interesting changes. It's about 20 grams lighter, and yeah, you do feel that difference. I mean, it's still a chunky phone, but it's getting a lot closer to the weight and thickness of a typical slab phone. But here's the weird part. They trimmed the thickness down, right? Well, one side is thinner than the other. Just look at it from the bottom and you can totally see the asymmetry. The camera island is slightly redesigned and now has pixel HiLight, which is basically LEDs around the flash. It's got potential to be really cool, but right now it's pretty underwhelming. I can already tell it's one of those features I'll forget about, and then when it activates one day, I'll think, oh yeah, I forgot this phone can do that. Google needs to give it way more functionality before it becomes something I actually care about. Now, the display did get some love. The cover screen has slimmer bezels, it's slightly larger, and it's more efficient now. It's still not as high res as other Pro displays, but I can't tell the difference. The size and shape of this cover display is easily the biggest selling point for this phone. It's not too wide, it's not too narrow, it's basically the same shape as the Pixel 11 Pro. So when the phone is closed, it really does feel like you're using a regular phone. Coming from the Galaxy Fold 8, where I was around 60-40 between the cover and main display, I'm using the cover screen here closer to 80% of the time. And a big part of that is because I have small hands and I don't feel confident holding this thing open when I'm out. It's basically a sofa-only experience for me. They're using a new hinge that's apparently 3 times more durable. It feels pretty much the same to me. It's got good tension, so it can hold at pretty much any angle you set it to. Great for a tabletop or tent mode. The crease does look a little better this year. It doesn't slope as deep, but you'll still feel and see it at certain angles. It's just not as big of a jump as what Samsung did with the Fold 8's crease. This one's a little more noticeable to me. This frame that goes around the display is now matte instead of glossy, so it's less reflective and hides fingerprints better. Both screens are super bright, so no issues under direct sunlight, but like most foldables, the screens will dim pretty quick in hot weather. The main display is essentially the shape of a square. Expect lots of letterboxing when watching content, and games can feel a little cramped. It does work great for browsing the web, reading books, and social media apps work fine out of the box. Google's own apps are mostly optimized, but you'll likely run into some third-party apps that weren't designed for this aspect ratio. Some scale up fine, some will look stretched out, and some just won't play well with it. Thankfully, Google gives you some control here. Long press the app, go into app info, and you can adjust the aspect ratio to make sure it's actually functional. Software is what makes or breaks the foldable experience. One of my main knocks on last year's Fold was that the multitasking felt a little too bare bones. Over the past year, Google has definitely put in some work. I mean, it's still fairly straightforward. You can run 2 apps side by side, swap them out by dragging a new one from the taskbar, or quickly swap them with a double tap. You can also resize the apps by dragging the handle, but you're limited to a few preset layouts: 50-50, 70-30, and 90-10. That 90-10 option is actually pretty useful because you can focus almost entirely on one app and then swap over the other when needed. And if you tap the handle, you get these little arrows now that lets you quickly cycle between the different preset layouts. In previous Folds, if you wanted to play a game while listening to a podcast or music, you couldn't. The moment you launch the game, it would pause your audio. That's been fixed, so you can get your game on while listening to something in the background now. Google doesn't give you the option to adjust the volume of individual apps though, so you gotta go into the game setting and do it that way. One thing that still bugs me though, you get this massive white navigation bar. I really want the option to auto hide it, and tabletop mode has a similar issue except there's a huge status bar at the top. A workaround for YouTube at least is to run it in split screen first before folding the phone. Then the video actually fills that space. The status bar icons are all still there, but yeah, I much prefer this over a giant bar. Then there's bubbles, which is a completely new feature this year. Drag an app to the bottom left or right and it opens in its own little window. You can also long press an app and hit this bubble symbol if that's easier for you. You can have up to 5 bubbles open at once, and swapping them is super easy. It even has its own little handles to let you know that you have bubbles open. Swipe up on it to immediately bring them back. This isn't just a foldable feature though. You can actually use bubbles on the cover display and on other Pixel phones too. Now the problem is it's still very buggy. I've had bubbles glitch on me multiple times. Sometimes they won't go away, and sometimes my entire screen just freezes. I feel like Google is starting to run into some of the same growing pains Samsung did years ago. What I mean is, the more features you add to the software, the harder it is to keep everything running smoothly. And lately, I've been running into more bugs and glitches than I'm normally used to with Pixel software. Don't get me wrong, for the most part, the UI is still silky smooth. The animations are fluid, the haptics feel amazing. Love that it's used for almost every interaction. It just makes the phone super satisfying to navigate. I still like the split notification shade and quick settings panel. It's such a good use of a bigger screen. One thing that's kind of interesting about Pixel software now is how quickly new Android features make their way over to Samsung. Like, a lot of the Gemini stuff is already available on Galaxy, sometimes even before the Pixel gets it. Tap to Share is the brand new contact and file sharing feature, and of course, Samsung has already announced that it's coming to Galaxy devices soon. Call screen was one of the Pixel's best features for years, and you guessed it, Samsung has its own version of it now. Besides new stuff like the Rambler voice to text and AI camera features like Camera Coach, I just don't think the Pixel has a lot of must-have exclusive software anymore. Now, performance is always a hot topic for Pixels. The new Tensor chip here isn't gonna change anyone's mind in terms of raw performance. Sustained graphics actually scored a little worse in my testing, and I think that's because Google is being a little more conservative with the temperatures this year. It's obviously not the best chip for heavy gaming, but for the games I play, it runs them just fine. You just can't expect to crank everything up to the highest graphic settings. One number that stood out to me was the 25% faster web browsing, so I had to test it. And yeah, it's much faster than last year's Fold, but that's not even the most interesting part. While I was running the test, the back of the 10 Pro Fold got so much warmer and its score kept getting worse with every run. The 11 Pro Fold didn't get nearly as hot and scored around the same every time. One other thing I've noticed with the new chip is battery drain. When this phone is just sitting in my pocket throughout the day, it doesn't seem to drain as much as last year's Fold. That could be the new modem or just better efficiency with the new chip. But either way, I'll take it. The battery size is actually smaller this year, which is not something you normally see, but I guess Google really wanted to make this thing lighter. It's rated for the same 24 hours as last year, and yeah, I'd say it's a one-day battery for me. I'm getting between 6 to 7 hours of screen time, which is pretty good for a foldable. But I gotta say, the camera and Android Auto absolutely eats this battery. There was one day when I did a 3-hour drive and took a bunch of pictures plus videos of my daughter, and it was down to 10% by like 6 p.m. Besides that specific day, I'm typically ending most days with like 20% left. Charging still tops out at 30 watts. You'll get 50% in 30 minutes, and it takes about 90 minutes to fully charge. Wireless charging is 20% faster than last year, but you're still looking at around 2 hours. It also has Pixel Snap, aka magnets, so you can use all sorts of MagSafe accessories without a case. Camera-wise, Google's processing has gone a little too aggressive over the years, but I still prefer the way Pixel photos look over Samsung or Apple. I will say, the gap is a lot smaller these days. The main camera is really good, it's reliable, and I love how well it handles my 4-year-old when she's running around. The ultra-wide and 5x telephoto look a little soft and fuzzy once the lighting isn't great, but they get the job done otherwise. There's also a new camera looks feature this year. You get a bunch of presets to play around with, and you can even tweak them further if you want to really dial in a specific look. Magic Capture is also new, although I don't completely trust it. It records your video, and Gemini decides which moments are worth saving as photos. Sometimes I'll get one photo, sometimes I'll get 5, and I've even held a shot longer because I really wanted it captured, and it still didn't pick it up. The video is also limited to 1080p. I'd love 4K. Made You Look is still one of my favorite features. If you have a kid, it's honestly a game changer for getting them to actually look at the camera. I also love that you can use the main camera for selfies, although having to unfold the camera every time I want to do that gets a little tedious. Video quality does look a lot less processed this year, which is a step in the right direction. It needs a lot of light though, or footage starts to look grainy real quick. Stabilization is fine on the main lens, but the telephoto footage looks a little jittery to me. The Fold also has some limitations. If you try to shoot 4K 60, it automatically disables HDR, and you don't have the ability to shoot portrait video either. As helpful as the new teleprompter and social media grid features are, this still wouldn't be my top choice for content creation. So like I mentioned at the beginning, Google had a lot to prove with this launch, and they definitely made some solid improvements. But the problem is, it doesn't exactly blow me away. When I'm spending this kind of money, I want to be blown away. I don't think it's all Google's fault though. Samsung has kind of changed how I look at foldables. That wider, more passport style design on the Fold 8 just works really well. And clearly, a lot of people are into it. And Apple apparently is going in that direction too. But one size doesn't always work for everyone, right? The cover screen here is probably the closest you're gonna get to a normal experience on a foldable. The Pixel's image processing is still really good. Give me the pictures out of this over Samsung any day. And the software is just a lot more streamlined and simple. You don't have all of the extra stuff Samsung piles on top of Android. Plus, it's still one of the only foldables with an IP68 water and dust resistance rating. So yeah, if you're not a big gamer and you value all the things I just listed, I think you'll be really happy with the Pixel 11 Pro Fold. I just wish Google gave us a little more to get excited about, especially at this price.